Hello and welcome to Clamp, the Creating, Living, and Making podcast. I'm your host, Morley Kurt, and joining me as always is Adam Mackey.
G'day, mates.
And Grant Alexander.
Hello, A.
Gentlemen, how are we? I know it's been a little while, but I'm so excited to see your beautiful faces again. What is in your clamps this week, Adam?
So I have been making a chess piece, which is actually turning out. My original plan was to make a chess piece out of a sheet of marble that I have, and I bought a disc for my grinder to cut it, and it scared the absolute crap out of me. I've never been so scared of a tool before that I was like, I'm not doing this. So I've actually casted one instead. So I have had a video idea. So instead of buying like a 2-part silicon mold, I've actually DIY'd my own mold. So the video is going to be not making a chess piece, but about the actual silicon mold. And then I'm going to make the chess piece in the video. So that, and then for the actual chess piece, what I did was I got my resin and I got a piece of Merbau because I wanted to make it a little bit Australian. And I got my card scraper and scraped off a hell of a lot of shavings, like little shavings, and mixed that into the resin. So it's like resin and Merbau. Pulled it out of the mold yesterday. It turned out pretty good, but it just needs to be cleaned up and sanded nice and polished and everything. So, yeah, pretty stoked with how that's going to turn out. Still working on this tabletop for the dog crate. I finally got both sides of it sanded, which is good. So now it's just cut, finish, adds a bit of detail. And as of this morning, well, yesterday, but mainly this morning, I've been CNC shopping.
Yeah, I heard you talking about that on the Discord.
Yeah, so pretty stoked. So there's a guy in Australia that makes them. Everyone raves on about him in Australia. So it's $1,500 for the CNC, but that's like a meter by a meter square. I'm probably going to pay the extra $250 to get it a meter by a meter and a half square, rectangle. So
what is a cutting room? What is a 4x8 sheet in meters?
1.5 meters. 1.5 meters is 59 inches.
No, so a 4x8 sheet is 1.2 by 2.4 meters.
Okay, so you want to be more than 1.2 at the minimum.
So it's going to be about 4 feet wide, and then I think it was about 39 inches front to back.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so pretty stoked about that. And yeah, that's about it.
No, you got some definite good, like, I've seen your SketchUp abilities or your computer modeling abilities. I think you'll do good with the CNC. And I'm sure you've seen mine and would say the opposite. So,
no, I don't think so. I use Fusion 360 now, and it was really recommended to use Fusion 360 for CNC. And but in saying that, as I've told my wife, is that I'm not just buying a CNC because I want the tool. I'm also trying to make a business with it because I want to make like custom signs, and I have this idea to cut out cutting boards into the shape of a house, and then on the back have like congratulations from, and then like the name of the real estate agent, and then hopefully sell them. I was talking to a guy at work, and he was saying that I should try and sell like a bulk lot instead of having custom of the person's name, have like the company's name, and hopefully they'll buy like 10 at a time, sort of thing.
That's a cool idea. That sounds like a very niche market that could do very well.
Yeah, because whenever you buy a house, they give like a bottle of wine and stuff. So I was like, yeah.
So Bruce Ulrich is a real estate agent, and that is something he does for every time he closes a house. Yeah. And I think he also makes them for other realtors because it's a big popular thing. I think doing it as a house is a really cool idea, or doing it like as the logo for the company.
Well, I was thinking that too, yeah.
We have like Remax here, and like the logo is a hot air balloon.
Yeah.
So you could do like a hot air balloon. That would be really fun.
Nothing like a nothing like a corporate logo right on your cutting board to make it feel real personalized.
That's the thing though. That's where I started worrying of like if I went down the logo route, that it's like
just do names.
Is someone really going to want a logo of the company they bought a house off? Like,
no.
You're not selling to the homeowner. You're selling to the agent, and you have to think about what the agent wants. Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever walked in and you've seen the garage sale signs? There's a giant garage sale and a tiny little spot for all your information. That's because they're selling you a sign, and you're buying a sign that says garage sale, but you're not. That's a bad sign for you to advertise your garage sale. It's got this 3-inch spot to put your information. What you want is garage sale to be equal to all the rest of the information, but they're selling it to you and you've bought it, and now you're doing a poor job advertising a garage sale so this is the same thing. You're not trying to sell to the end consumer, right? I have an ice cream scoop that I got from I went to an open house and they were giving out ice cream scoops, and this whole person's thing was like, get the scoop on the best houses by going with me. All right. But guess what I use every time I have ice cream?
Yeah. That's the problem with really good swag is this is so corny, but it's too good.
Right. Yeah. If anyone out there is giving out swag, don't give out cheap swag. So at my work, they cut the budget for swag, and we now give out pens that break as you take them out. And it's just it makes us look horrible. I'm I'd rather us not give stuff out.
Yeah. The bar is so high. You have to, if you're going to give stuff out, it has to be good.
Yeah.
Right. But you can have a good, a Bic pen is perfectly fine. Right. It's a perfectly fine pen. It does not break. There's nothing fancy about it. Right. You put your logo on it and it's great. But they have these cheap garbage is what I call it. They try and look good, but they just we like to put a business card on the pen. Mm-hmm. In the little flippy, the part that you put in your pocket, that part, and they just break off as you're putting a business card in. And if somebody ever tries to use that, it's just plop, gone.
Yeah.
Sorry for my rant. That was the G rant of the episode, everyone.
Well, I have a G rant actually.
Well, you got to change your name.
Yes. Well, anyway, I completely forgot to actually talk about this stuff. I made a little list of things I want to talk about. When I was doing the tabletop, I hooked up a shop vac to my sander for the first time. I've never really hooked up dust collection before, and what a game changer! I sanded half the tabletop, one half of one side, without the shop vac, and there was dust everywhere. I had dust all up my nose. I didn't even think about it. Had goggles, glasses on and everything. Hooked up the shop vac, and I needed nothing. Didn't need the glasses. There was no dust anywhere. Such a big change.
You obviously didn't listen to my episode of Because that's exactly what I recommended as my thing of the week.
I thought I did, but maybe not.
Yeah,
but in saying that, my G rant is, why the hell? I understand it's probably so that it can move around, but why aren't the hoses smooth? Because it just keeps getting caught on the edge of my tabletop and getting pulled out of the sander, and it was driving me insane. I think Festool might have a sleeve over theirs, right?
So the Festool one is a lot smoother, and it doesn't seem to get caught, but it comes attached to an $800 vacuum.
Well, yeah,
I just couldn't.
But
you know what I'll say? That vacuum is amazing. I had the opportunity to use one when I was visiting the guy Urban Shop Works in the Yukon.
Yeah.
And it was just insane how much better that vacuum worked than any shop vac I'd ever seen, and how much quieter it was. It wasn't it's not whisper quiet. It's still vacuum, but wow. If you can afford Festool, there's a reason why it costs so much.
I've never understood the quietness of it though. Okay, maybe if you're using a domino or something, but if you're using a sander, the sander's loud anyway. So what's the shop vac going to change?
Have you used a Festool sander? Because it's much quieter.
Not having to use ear protection and being able to carry a conversation over the sound of machinery is very, very nice. I feel like they're selling that improved user experience.
Yeah.
Right. Well, even if you use ear protection, the louder it is, it still can hurt your ears with extended use.
Yeah, true.
All right. Anyway. Before we get too far in the weeds of tools, this isn't the Vincent episode. We can't talk for too long about woodworking. Grant, what have you been up to this week?
Well, I will try and keep it short. I painted my boler. There's a post up on the Instagram, my Instagram, with the new colors. It's creamsicle. It is orange on the bottom and white on top. And I did a roll and tip method, which is basically, I also, if you go on my Instagram, you can see I showed what it is. You roll it on. It leaves a lot of bubbles, but what you do is you take a dry brush across it and you use that. And if you have it thinned properly, all the brush strokes go away. So the first time that worked perfectly. The second day was like, I don't know, 10 or 15 degrees hotter, and I didn't have it needed to be thinner. So there's a couple brush strokes left, but like from 5 feet away, you can't see it. Obviously I see the problems.
Can I give an extra little tip on that? With your paintbrushes and stuff, if you put them in like a Glad bag or like a Ziploc bag, you don't have to clean them.
Yes. So what
I was going to say, I'm currently painting drawer fronts for this dog crate, and I have been putting I've got like a little roller container in a Ziploc bag and the roller in another bag, and I have not cleaned them for like 3 weeks.
So I'm with you on that 100%. I usually wrap them in saran wrap and then put them in a bag and put them in the fridge. Ooh, so if you put them in the fridge, it actually helps a lot too. I find I usually just clean my paintbrushes anyways. I was also switching between 2 different colors and only had enough paintbrushes to do. I got lots of rollers. Rollers are cheap. Paintbrushes are expensive. I cleaned the paintbrushes between the jobs, but yeah.
So a couple summers ago, I worked at that off-grid lodge in the Rockies. And because we were in a national park, we had to be very careful with how we disposed of everything. So it was basically carry in, carry out on a very large scale. So we had, on-site wastewater treatment plant, and once the water was treated, it would be injected back into the ground to recharge the groundwater, and then we would withdraw groundwater through wells for drinking. And we did maintenance on the property, and so it was pretty common that we'd have to repaint things. And the question becomes, well, what do you do when you rinse out a paintbrush? You can't just put it down the drain because the wastewater treatment plant can't deal with that. It's only gray and black water. So we would basically have to do it all over a contaminants barrel that would eventually be carted down the road. And obviously with everything there's a big emphasis on minimizing the amount of trips. So there's a big emphasis on minimizing the amount of water used for all that. So I got very good at cleaning out paintbrushes with a very, very small amount of water. Because there's also like so much time just standing over the barrel, like stirring around the paintbrush in the water, pouring it in, doing it again and again and again. It was very inefficient. So,
but inefficient time-wise, but efficient water-wise.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. See, this is where efficiencies need to be talked about in more than one way. But that being said, that sounds great. Awesome to hear that they were not just like throwing crap into the. It's awesome to hear of a company that isn't a complete shithole to the environment.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to be as well when you're leasing the land from the federal government on a 100-year lease. You're in the middle of a incredibly well-known and sought-after national park with a heavy parks presence and everything. It's not the place where you can start cutting corners for stuff like that. Like, you got to go by the book.
You'd be surprised what people do, but I agree with you.
Right,
it is more risky.
Yeah, and the people that own it care as well. I mean, I'll say that.
Yeah,
but Grant, what else?
Totally.
Go on.
So there was the painted the boulder, and now I'm starting to reassemble it. Putting stuff in like the windows is kind of a pain. You need 2 people because I'm going to be assembling it with screws and like nuts and bolts or screws and bolts instead of rivets. And I'm doing that because 1, they look nicer, and 2, if I ever need to change a seal, I don't have to get the drill out and drill out 100 rivets. I just unscrew it all. But it also means you need 2 people. So I've been leaning on my friend who also lent me his garage to do the painting. And he has air conditioning in there. That's nice. But the air conditioning in my house broke today. Well, it broke yesterday Yesterday I was able to turn it off and on and back on again, and then it started spinning again. But today I tried that trick and it didn't work. And I went out and like the motor was like 1,000,000,000 degrees, and I'm sure the starter capacitor is gone on it, but it's like, I don't know why, but the previous owners decided to go with an undersized like air conditioner. It is not sufficient. It's never been able to keep my house cool. So I just said, screw it. This is the last straw. It's gone. And $3,500 later, and I'm getting a new air conditioner. Right. Now I'm not getting a car.
You have enough cars.
I was going to sell a car and buy a car, but like with 2 kids, the wagon, 2 kids and a dog, the wagon starts to look a little small for road trips.
Gotcha. Cool.
But that's what I've been up to. What about you, Morley?
Well, before I talk about what I'm up to, I wanted to give a big thanks to you guys for having such an awesome episode last week in my absence. It was so, I messaged you and Vincent. It was so heartwarming just like listening to it, and on like such short notice, it being such a great conversation. And I was like, I just really am feeling the love of the community. The fact that Vincent was able to hop on, and I also, when I was messaging Vincent, I was like, oh, so this is what it sounds like when there's 3 adults in the room. It's funny when Adam, I don't know if you've had this experience when it's been me, Grant, and like Zach builds, for example, but like, it's funny to hear a group of 3 when you're replaced with someone else, just to see how the dynamics change.
Definitely.
Like I mentioned, like definitely a lot more woodworking talk than there would have otherwise been. It's like I would have nothing to say about a planer. I mean, I've used one, but so definitely was very grateful for you guys there. Had some family stuff to deal with, which is all in a much better spot now. So it was good that I took that night off.
Good to hear.
And yeah, it's been it's like the past weeks, it's just been camp. As of the day of this recording, we are 4 or so days away from the first day of session 1. So I have 1 more day of work because tomorrow's a holiday before we are just going. And it's very exciting. It's also stressful because, again, the camp is only 6 years old, so nothing is incredibly established. But it's fun. Like, we've had a bunch of counselor training days, which are a great litmus test for like how the camp itself will feel, because the counselors are from high school to university. So some of them are pretty young, and it's been a good practice for camp, but nothing replaces the real thing. And I'm just really excited to be like out of the planning stage and into the planning on the fly stage, because that's kind of where I'm in my element, when you can work in those dynamic situations. I'm thinking back to like when I was in high school, and we had a winter track meet that was postponed like 3 times for snow. And just staying in that constant state of readiness for 3 weeks was exhausting. And that's kind of how I feel now, where it's like, it's not that it's been postponed, but just being in this like constantly preparing state for the thing to come for so long is, I'm like definitely ready to be in the situation itself. And especially as well with like the COVID situation getting a lot better in Ontario, everything feels very optimistic. Like I'm getting my next vaccine dose tomorrow, which I'm a little nervous about, because I know a lot of people who had like 24-hour fever afterwards. So we'll see what happens. I'm hoping I can go to work on Friday, but
I've heard a lot of people. I know a lot of people who had nothing.
Yeah, so I guess it's just the people in my immediate circle. Like a frightening amount of them recently have just had like 24 hours of like super tired, feverish, and whatever else. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen.
Good luck. My auntie-in-law actually went to hospital after getting the first dose or the second dose.
Yeah, this is a shame.
She because of the fever and all that stuff, she actually spent a night in hospital, which was pretty crazy.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that with my age and my health, the fever itself won't put me in the hospital. It'll just be a day out of work. Yeah. But I had 1 day off this weekend, which was very nice. And I really wanted to just like make something. I didn't really know what. So I was cleaning up my workshop and just looking around. thinking about what I could do and how I wanted to spend my time. And I don't know how I got this idea, but I decided that I wanted to try making a miniature Bowie knife from an old wrench. So that is the project I'm currently working on. And it's been a lot of fun so far. I got it like all cut out, and I had to buy a torch to do the heat treating, which I haven't yet done. But it was a really nice change of pace because, kind of like I mentioned, like being in the state of planning, like you're constantly thinking about like what's happening tomorrow, what's happening in a week, what's happening in a month, what's happening in 3 months. And so it's very difficult to like stay present and think about like what's happening right now. And I'm actually reading this book right now, which I mentioned on the latest Into the Spotlight, called Radical Acceptance, which talks a lot about mindfulness and trying to be present. So it's actually been very useful at this time to like try to take moments and like appreciate the moment and kind of take it all in, like what's happening around you, and not get too caught up in the planning ahead. But it was really nice this weekend or last weekend to kind of focus on this random little project that I wanted to do for no other reason than it would be fun and be I think a pretty cool video. And so
is it a Gary sized knife?
Yeah, I would say so. It's I don't know what size wrench it is. It's about, I'll say the blade itself is about 2 inches long.
Ooh, that's a big Gary.
But it's like, if you think about a Bowie knife being like 12 inches long, it's scaled down that amount.
Nice.
So it'll be a really, really tiny little handle, which is why in the pre-show I mentioned about wanting to get some brass. And I feel like that's one of my favorite things about making is that it really forces you to be like fully present in a way that in a lot of other work, you're always thinking about things either in the past or in the future. And this is what the author of this book, Tara Brach, talks about a lot, in that a lot of time in like modern life, we're either dwelling on the past or looking forward into the possible future. And we live our lives through a lot of this trance of either in the past or in the future. And it's rare that we can really appreciate the present. But I feel like when you're really making something, it's an opportunity where you can really focus in on the immediate present, which is very valuable.
So I found that when I'm trying to film something, I'm focusing on the future because I'm trying to make the film and I'm not being present. And I find when I'm just making something and I decide, you know what, this one's not a video, right? Or it's the second one, I've already filmed the first one. I find I can be much more present in the making. So I think that's something that, like, you know, if you don't film your stuff, you don't make YouTube videos, that's okay. Like, you're doing it for, you know, your own, like, don't, like, a lot of people go like, well, you need to go make YouTube videos. Why aren't you doing it? You're already making, just go for it. But I find like it takes you away from the project.
It's funny. I actually kind of disagree. I feel like in some ways, and I've mentioned this before, filming for me is a good motivator for like moving on to the next thing and not getting too caught up in any one step. And I don't really see the filming as detrimental to the overall process, because I find it like a pretty fun creative exercise to think about like, how do I want this thing to look? And maybe I'm thinking about like not being in the present. I'm associating that with badness. So I'm saying maybe I'm saying that it's not that it's fully. Let me back that up. Maybe I'm not saying that it's a fully present experience, but I'm just saying that the fact that it is not a fully present experience isn't necessarily a bad thing.
I'm with you. It's not always a bad thing, but if you're trying to be in the present, adding a lens in front of it makes it harder. Like when I think about times that I've like filmed my son doing something, I'm looking at a screen instead of looking at him, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not making a memory because I'm filming it, because I'm not there, right? And it's like, you know, it's sometimes just put down your camera, be there with your family, be in the moment.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that actually has influenced how I've filmed recently. And I've noticed sometimes in the past, like I spend all this time like trying to get the perfect shot of like skiving the edge of the leather or like beveling the edge of the leather. But it's like this double win where if I ever just like forget about the camera and do it in a way that feels natural, it usually looks better. And so, and that's something I've been thinking about with like shooting photo and video, like trying to be present with it, because it's a better experience in the moment and it usually looks better in the long run. It's that like getting that feeling of genuine quality.
I'm with you, and I love those shots where I'm doing something that feels real natural, and then all I get is my elbow.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. Like, it's a really tricky balance. Like, I guess, like, what does it mean to stay fully present? Like, we're always in some ways planning for the future or thinking about how it might relate to the past. Like, in some ways, to be like a functioning member of society, you can't really live fully in the present because, like, as modern day humans, and even as like Paleolithic humans, right? Like, we planned for droughts, we planned for scarcities of food. Like, humans are always planning in some way or in another. And I think it's not worth it to get too caught up on semantics, because I think everyone knows what you mean when you say like, I haven't been present recently, where it's more of a taking time to appreciate what you're doing right now rather than like throwing away any sort of planning. And yeah, sorry, go on, Adam.
I was trying to think of how I wanted to add what I was going to say, but one of the things I've been doing lately, which I've talked about, is I've actually made a storyboard of like the what I want to film for my for this dog crate video. So like a lot of probably 90% of my time has been thinking towards the future of what I actually need to film and what I need to do and the shots I need and things that I like for B-roll and all that sort of stuff, and haven't really thought of the project as much. And then when I come back to doing the project, I'm like, oh wait, how am I going to do this? I haven't thought this through properly.
Yeah, and I think in some ways doing that planning sometimes does allow you to be more present, because you don't have to like stop and sort of plan in the moment. Like I said, I think there always has to be some amount of planning, and that's for sure. And I think it's more so like, let me like take it back to my own workplace, right? So like in my current role, it's a lot of coordinating and managing and making sure that people are communicating and planning that these things everything is accounted for, and doing a lot of the overall higher level stuff. And in doing that, like I don't have a lot of the opportunity to do the more like makery hands-on things in the workplace. A lot of times I'm like describing this project to someone else and sort of pitching it to them and being like, I think you're the perfect person to do this. How do you feel about that? And then trying to give them the tools they need to do something. And so for me, it's a very like literal, like being able to like take a weekend day to like make this tiny little knife is a very like literal way where like I can just focus on this little project. And it's not so much worrying about all these, different interrelations of people and thinking how it might interact with something in the future. And all these moving parts might work together. I can focus on something a little smaller and a little within my locus of control.
Yeah.
One, I really like locus of control, and two, I think it's something like you're working on a project that doesn't matter, right? This tiny Bowie knife has no dependencies, like nothing depends on it, and it doesn't depend on anything else, right? And I think that's a freeing thing. That's where it's like, living in the present is like you're doing something that if it turns out great, if it doesn't turn out great, right? And I think that's like a big thing when it talks about like hobbies and just enjoying the time that you have.
Mm-hmm. You actually just made me think about the fact of people that do commissions and stuff, of thinking about wood movement. When I build stuff, I never think about wood movement, but when you're making something for someone else, like to sell it, you need to think of those things, because that is going to affect the future of, if you don't account for it, they're going to call you up in a year and go, hey, what's going on? My whole thing's full of holes, well, gaps, and yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go on,
this comment or this conversation gets me thinking about a song by The Streets called "All Got Our Runnings." It's a UK band. I don't know. I don't know how to describe things. Rap group, maybe. I don't know. Whatever they are, hip hop. I don't know. But in the song, in one of the verses, it says, "Live for the moment," said he. Wrong. Downing beers out my tree. Now the moment's past. The cash is a distant memory. And I just always really liked that because living in the moment sounds great until sometimes if you haven't planned for the future, you've wasted all your cash down in beers, right? Like, and it's gone. And now, and the whole song is about like not being, they don't, he doesn't have the money to make ends meet and shit like that. But it's basically like, it's just an interesting way of putting it. Like, living for the moment sounds great until, that grasshopper versus ant or whatever it is, like that old tale where it's like the ant plans for the future the whole time, collecting stuff, and the grasshopper just jumps around. And then come winter, the grasshopper dies. So he was living in the moment.
Yeah. I think the problem with that line of thinking is that like it's dealing in the extremes of like, right. You're talking about like YOLO, like the YOLO, making fun of like, I'm just going to go skydiving and, do whatever because like I could die any moment. But I think where this conversation really exists is in the nuances. And it's something I've been thinking about a lot more as like I've had less free time recently. Especially like, when I come home from work and like I have all these things buzzing through my head after a day of like juggling 100 different dependencies and people. And it can be very easy and sometimes attractive to like keep thinking about those things and maybe want to like, you come home and you want to text someone because you forgot something and not really like allow yourself to move on to the next thing. And, like a couple days ago, I got home from work. I walk into the backyard and Eden is sitting there with her brother and his wife and their baby. And they had just like dropped by for a visit. And all of a sudden, like we don't see them very often, especially with COVID. And that became the most important thing right then. And it's something we've been talking about a lot at camp is this idea of flexibility, which I think does dovetail a lot with living in the moment and like recognizing those things where it's like, I thought that this thing was important, but really if I take into account like the right now, then this is the thing I should be putting my full attention on. And I think that's what it comes down to a lot is attention. Totally. And having attention on the thing you're working on. Because there's never anything more important than the thing you're working on. And if your attention is somewhere else, then you'll probably do a worse job on the thing that you're working on than if you just put your full attention into it. And if we're thinking about, even if you are planning for the future, if you have to be working on something right now to do that planning for the future. So I think attention is a big part of it. Flexibility is a big part of it. And recognizing those moments where like, okay, like I just had 4 hours of this, but this other thing that I didn't expect to just happen. So this is what I should be appreciating right now. So let me be in this moment with these people and put aside these other things that I've been worrying about.
Great. It reminds me of Andy Berkey, and like some of the photography shots that he's done and I've seen. It's kind of like when you see those things, you see that like drop of rain on a leaf that just looks like is reflecting things so perfectly. Those are the types of things like stop and smell the flowers. I think is like take the opportunities when they come, as well as or be flexible and be okay with like I don't know. It's hard to say, but I think it's a big thing. It's like staying present means seeing when the rainbow appears. Take a second to appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. It's also like accepting that like sometimes the coolest things in life are the things that like you can't plan, and being open to those experiences when you can be like, oh, this amazing thing is happening right now. Let me stop and appreciate this, rather than thinking that this preconception that I had in my head is the most important thing that I need to be doing right now. And I've made that mistake lots of times in my life where you don't really fully read the situation and you put your own priorities over the priorities of a group. And then all of a sudden, like you're kind of ruining the moment for yourself or for everyone else. You're taking away something that's rare.
Well, what? Were you going to talk?
I just feel like I'm going to have so many gaps to remove from this episode.
Well, it looks like you were inhaling, Adam, like you were about to speak.
No, I was just going to take it back to like the making part of it for a second, and I think a problem I have, if I have a project coming up, I'm in the moment of, all right, this is the materials I need, and I need to buy this, like everything I need to buy to finish this project. And then I get halfway through the project and I start thinking about what the next project's going to be. And then I get so distracted thinking about the next project that I completely forget that I still have half of this project to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really hard. I struggle with that as well.
Yeah.
So I think when you talk about like staying present, I'll often like start working on something on one workbench in my garage. And I'm like, oh, I need to grab a tool. And as I walk over to grab that other tool, I grab a different project and start working on it. But is that staying present or is that being distracted? Like, which one is it? Because I was in the moment going, that one needs all my attention, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I, for some reason, out of nowhere, took the like sanding disc off my disc sander and started replacing it when I was supposed to be heading over to work on my trailer and install more windows. But in the middle, I just looked and I went, why am I replacing the sanding disc? It doesn't need, like, that is not a priority right now.
Right. Well, so I think you just
priority, or are you talking about present?
Well, I think you kind of answered your own question, right? Like, do you feel happy or fulfilled when you go to do something and you get interrupted by something else and then you realize that you were going to do that other thing? Or do you feel frustrated that you didn't follow through with the thing you originally set out to do?
Yes. To both.
Yeah. And I agree. Like, it's nice to be able to feel like you're getting like lots of different things done, but I also get frustrated if I'm like, oh my God, I knew that I was walking over here to do something, but like now I can't remember what it is.
Yeah.
And I think,
that is frustrating.
I think most of the time, if I take the time to like be intentional and be like, okay, like this is the thing I'm focusing on right now. Like, don't, like, someone will come over and talk to me at work. I'm like, because it's very easy in the camp setting to be distracted by something else and for someone to bring up something that you weren't even talking about. And just because of how many different things are going on. And so I'll say most of the time, I'd be like, I need 2 minutes to finish what I'm writing and then I'll talk to you, because I need that and like feeling of completeness when I've started something, or else I'll go crazy throughout the day. I'll be like, I didn't finish anything. Like, I started all these things and now they're all just up in the ether and they don't exist anymore.
I'm the same as Grant when cleaning my shop, except for I'm also making excuses. So if I start cleaning my shop, every time I find an excuse that I need to make something, to store something. So just so I can distract myself from the crap job of cleaning the shop. So every time I clean my shop, I end up building something. But I tell myself that I need to do it to be able to clean my shop, even though I don't.
So I remember on Making It, they were one time talking about distractions. And Jimmy DeResta was saying there are welcome distractions and unwelcome distractions. Right? And he was talking about, like, you know, a friend you haven't seen in a while stops by the shop that doesn't come very often, happens to be in the neighborhood, and you want to have a chat with them. Welcome distraction. You're happy to have it. Like, you have to have a very pressing deadline to go, no, I go away, right?
Yeah.
But buddy who stops by, you know, every other day to chat, you can be like, well, I don't have time to chat with you today, right? Like,
yeah.
It's all like whether or not it's welcome at the time, at the thing. Maybe you were just like sanding a lot and your hands are starting to hurt and you're just like, yes, please, can someone please stop by and distract me from this so my hands can have 5 minutes to heal, right?
Mm-hmm. I actually enjoyed sanding the last 2 days. Because I just put something on the TV and I just stared at the TV. I completely forgot I was even sanding.
I've got like
they'll tingle
or something. Oh yeah. Yeah. Anyways, so I think that's a lot about staying present, is also figuring out which distractions are welcome and which distractions are distracting.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like sometimes in recent months, as I've tried to become more conscious of like unconsciously reaching for my phone or like doing those instinctual reactions, I'll try to like question when I'm having that. Like this is gonna sound kind of funny, but it was something I journaled about when I was working on the off-grid lodge, where we didn't have any internet. And when you don't have any internet, there's not really any reason to have your phone on you or to take it anywhere. So most of the time when I was there, my phone would always be in my room unless I was going on a hike, and I would be using it to take pictures, which actually wasn't even very common because I would usually just take my camera. And I realized something when I was there, in that I really appreciate the meditative time in the bathroom with no distractions. And I had forgotten that feeling because for most of my adult life, I've had a cell phone with me and I've been able to take it out when I go to the bathroom and distract myself. But I remembered when I was at the lodge, I would have these memory flashbacks to when I would go to summer camp, and it would feel like so peaceful in the bathroom. And I was like, this is a really nice feeling. This is a really nice time to just kind of like sit in this quiet space and just kind of like relax and be able to think or whatever else. And so I journaled about that when I was there. I was like, wow, I miss this feeling. I want to preserve this past when I stopped working here. And of course, when I left very quickly, I forgot about that. But now I'm remembering it again and trying to do that as much as possible and not take my phone to the bathroom with me.
And to bring it back to another Making It reference, David Picciuto recently said that's something he started doing, is not bringing his phone in. But so the times I've forgotten my phone, I then have to read shampoo bottles or something. Like, I don't know, like I'm broken. I can't just sit there.
Well, you think you do, but you can, if you stop yourself and like just kind of resist the temptation. It's amazing how like adaptable humans are, and eventually you are kind of able to relax and be like, oh, okay, I guess I don't really need to like consume any content right now.
But then what excuse do I have to sit there for more than 2 minutes?
I don't know. You have a really compelling daydream.
But if I'm going to the toilet, my first thing is, where's my phone? Make sure I take it. I thought you were going to say before, you don't take your phone to the toilet, which I don't know why we're talking about this, because a lot of people are probably listening going, that's disgusting. Why would you take your phone into a toilet?
No, I think 90% of people listening do that. Exactly.
Yes. But that's also my time to go on my phone. Just go to the toilet so I can sit on my phone for a minute. But that's a big issue. Like phones are a massive issue for not staying present for me, especially like my wife gets annoyed because I get a message on Discord or whatever and I try to respond to it and I'm not present with the kids like I should be, and
oh my God,
always on my phone. I can't stay off it. I don't know.
It is addictive.
Like, it is very addictive.
I've been watching TV and there's like a break. Like they try and do it sometimes in TV shows where they go like, we're going to build up tempo and release tempo, right? There's a little release tempos. And it's like not very high tempo going on. Mm-hmm. And I look and like a minute later, I'm staring at my phone. I go, what the hell happened here? What is wrong with me?
Yeah.
I was watching a TV show and now it's like 5 minutes later and I have no clue what was happening, but I catched up on Facebook or something. You know what I mean? Like
we've been watching, we were watching a free-to-air TV show. And my wife, she sits on her phone the whole time. I don't know. Somehow she sits on her phone, but she still knows what's happening on the TV. If I'm on my phone, I'm not paying attention to the TV at all.
Yeah.
Anyway, every time the ad break came on, the first thing I did was pick up my phone. And then I'd play on my phone until the ad break finished, and then I'd put my phone down. It was just, I don't know why. I just can't help it. I'm so addicted to my phone. And it's very, very hard to be present with a phone.
I've totally been on my computer looking at Facebook and then pulled up my phone to see if the Facebook on my phone had something different or, Imgur or whatever it was. I was like, what is wrong with me? I'm looking at it on a big screen and then I pull up my phone to look at it on a little screen because it's like an addictive, I don't know, it's worse than
that's like me with YouTube. Like I'll be watching YouTube at work or whatever. And I'm watching it because I picked what I wanted to watch because I was interested in it. And next thing I know, I'm looking at my phone while the YouTube's playing in the background.
Yeah, it doesn't help when the smartest people in the world are working on how to make it even more addictive. And I think the key is just treating yourself like a small child. You got to just remove it from the situation, leaving it in another room, not taking it with you. And then there's just no possibility of even reaching into your pocket if you want to be in a situation where you're not distracted in that way.
I'm not lazy enough to just not go get it, though.
Right. Well, you know what we should do? We should tell people what they should watch or listen to in a Clampmendation.
Clampmendations!
My Clampmendation this week is going to be a YouTube channel called Black Forest Wood Company. So, it's an actual company that make a range of things, actually. Pretty much every one of their projects has epoxy in it. They make, very big tabletops and bench tops, doors. The first video I've ever saw of them was this $17,000 door they made for someone.
What?
Yeah. And the early epoxy...
All of my cars together don't cost $17,000. I know, right?
And the early epoxy I can remember on it was at the letter. They put a letter on the front of the door, just one letter cut out with a router and then filled with epoxy. But this door was like it's for a mansion, expensive wood. I don't know if the whole thing's probably made out of ebony. I don't remember, but yeah. But yeah, so they're very open about their prices and all that sort of stuff, which is I like channels that do that. Explain how much things actually are. So, yeah. No, they're really good. They have a different kind of vibe. They're all vlog video sort of things.
That's cool.
Cool.
Yeah. It's not how we made it, how to make it. It's just this is what we did this week.
Well, I've been watching Monty Python, throwing it back old school. Monty Python and the Quest for the Holy Grail is what I'm currently watching. I think we were going on Netflix and scrolling through because that's what you do, apparently. You finish an episode of something, and then you just spend an hour scrolling through Netflix not being able to actually choose anything. And then my wife said, I don't think I've watched this before. And I went, what? and I just started playing it, and that was it. So, yeah. And I just got to the part where... spoiler alert, King Arthur cuts off the arms and legs of the Black Knight. And he's like, 'tis but a flesh wound. And I laughed.
Nice.
Your wife's probably like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
You've really got to be into weird humor to get Monty Python.
When I was a lad, we would walk uphill to school both ways in the rain. And when we get home, my father would beat us around the room with a broom handle for 2 hours. What a dream. All right. Well, my Clampmendation for this week is someone I've been following for a while now. I don't think I've ever shouted him out, and it is Jacob Witzling. He lives in the Pacific Northwest of the U.S. and is a cabin builder, makes really beautiful stuff with Sarah Underwood. I think they're making a whole cabin compound in the rainforest up there. And I've just always enjoyed his work. It's really, really beautiful. Does a lot of living roofs, very geometric shapes. He's been doing a lot of really fun reels recently of different wood chopping techniques, which are fantastic. And Eden and I have half jokingly, half seriously talked about starting some sort of retreat center eventually. So his stuff is very fun inspiration for how we might want a cabin in the woods to look in the future. Just really beautiful work. Jacob Witzling on Instagram. Go check him out.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of Andrew Zito with his different geometric shapes. Zito said, I don't want two buildings to look the same.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah, and he uses a lot of reclaimed or bought from at a very low cost from building demolition companies stuff. So just by its nature, his stuff won't really look the same because it's a lot of bric-a-brac, bespoke design.
That's cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, apparently this week we have no review, which means it's time for everyone's favorite new weekly tradition, which is Adam's Australian word of the week. Yeah. Adam, do you have a word for us this week?
I do. So my word this week is togs. Togs.
Is it only ever plural?
Yes.
So you never have tog. It's always togs.
Great, you're muted.
Is it only ever plural? Is it actually plural, though?
No. I feel like it's an adjective. I feel like you would say, like, I'm feeling togs. That's kind of the sense I'm getting. What do you think, Grant? Togs. What are you feeling?
I don't know. I feel like I went and got some togs last night.
What's the togs? What's the togs over there? Like, what's the deal? I feel like it might be tired. Like, I'm feeling super togs this morning. But I feel like it might be togged if it
Would
was
you
tired.
Like a hint?
Yeah, we need a hint.
It's an item.
Oh, it's an item.
Is it singular like eggs item or something? I feel like it might be eggs.
Nope.
Is it a food?
Nope.
Oh.
Is it bigger than a toaster?
Is it a toggle?
No.
All
it's
right,
a swimsuit.
What?
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I understand the problem
do you know what
figuring out whether or not it was
budgie smugglers are?
Is that like
budgie smugglers are?
No.
Is that like a G-string or something?
Well, it's like the men's version, not a G-string, of like swimmers, but undie swimmers.
Right, like a Speedo.
Yeah, Speedo, yeah. So budgie smugglers are essentially a Speedo because you're smuggling your budgie.
I think budgie itself is still an Australian word.
Yeah, so Speedo, budgie's a bird. Speedo is togs, like your swimmers. Your togs.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really happy I know that now.
Well, if I said like I was going to go put on my trunks, what would you say?
What the hell's a trunk?
Right. Okay.
I'm going to assume that that's your what do you call swim shorts?
What would you call swim shorts?
I'm trying to think.
Because I wouldn't even say trunks. I would say swimsuit.
I'm having a complete mind blank, and I'll get back to you.
All right.
So I wouldn't say
trousers?
I wouldn't say trunks, but I'd say I've heard people say my swimming trunks.
Yeah. It sounds a little archaic to me, like something like 60 and up might say.
Right, it's like my grandpa would be like, "Go put on your swim trunks," right?
Which is funny because swimsuit is like it's not a suit. Like I'm not putting on a suit; it's shorts.
So it's pretty much what I live in, and I should have remembered this, and I just did. Board shorts, we call them.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Board shorts are different, though. Board shorts and swim trunks are different.
I feel like board shorts are just swim trunks without netting.
Board shorts have
right, my board shorts have netting, but they don't have they like have a kind of laces in the front.
Right. Okay.
Instead of like swim trunks have a string that goes all the way around waistband.
So ours are just board shorts, are just shorts you wear when you swim. There's no like, as far as I'm concerned, any shorts that are made for swimming are board shorts.
Right. So here, if you buy board shorts, they have a fly generally, and they have So
Velcro
swim
fly.
Trunks don't have a fly.
When did you two become swimming attire experts? I don't know any of these delineations.
Oh my God, because I am very particular. I don't know if you've noticed this. I'm a very particular person. I have very particular things. Except for beer, I'll drink any beer. But when it comes to swimwear, I need
and food. Aren't you like you'll eat any food?
I'm not growing up. Growing up, I ate the exact same breakfast every day, Honey Nut Cheerios. The exact same lunch every day, a peanut butter and jam sandwich. And I would have eaten chicken nuggets and fries every day, or hot dogs and Kraft dinner.
You seemed up for whatever during our camping trip.
I am up for whatever today. I'm just saying.
What is Krypton?
Growing up, I was not there.
What is Krypton?
Krypton?
Yeah.
Kraft dinner.
What's that?
Kraft dinner. It's macaroni and cheese.
Ugh.
Made by Kraft. It's a Kraft macaroni and cheese for the Americans. Kraft dinner for the Canadians.
Very strongly dislike macaroni and cheese.
All right. I think we should save the remainder of our food conversations for the after show.
Yes, that's a good idea.
And if you want to listen to the after show, you can find it by supporting us on Patreon. Everyone who supports us there gets access to both the pre and the after show, which are a lot of fun. They also get a embossed leather keychain made by yours truly. And if you want to learn more about that, you can go to patreon.com/clamp. We are super grateful for everyone who supports us over there because it covers all of our costs for the podcast, which is really amazing. And if you would like to support the show in another way, we always appreciate if you share it with someone who you might think would enjoy it. Share it in any way that you see fit, either in the real world or on social media. We always appreciate that. And before we close it out, I wanted to give one more thanks to TF Turning for composing and playing our amazing theme music, which you will hear me sing in the beginning of the after show. And gentlemen, is there anything I missed? I think that was it. That's it. So, if you want to see Grant's beautiful cover, you can find it on Instagram. If you want to watch the episodes video, you can find them on YouTube. Links to all of that is in the show notes. And if you want to listen to it, well, you probably should know where to find it because you're listening to it right now. We're also on Twitter and Facebook, but don't go there because there's only like 3 people, although they are very vocal that they do in fact exist. So I won't say that it's a worse place to be. It's just a very, not very many people there. All right. Adam raised his hand, but we'll save that for the after show. Thank you, everyone. We'll talk to you next week. Goodbye.
See you.
Bye.
We've just gone into intense lockdown, so that's fun.
Well, we were like that since December, so.
This is actually the biggest lockdown we've had since COVID started, I think. Yeah. I mean, like we were in lockdown for like almost a year, but like this one's a lot stricter. Like you have to wear a mask everywhere, which we didn't have to before. For over a year. And yeah, so it's been a sort of big change.
Hey, welcome to 2020.
Yeah,
Grant, you're giving him no wiggle room. Just say it sucks. I know.
No.
What
you've been living the good life. Screw you.
What sucks is my gym, which is like 10 minutes away from me, is not in the zone of lockdown, but I can't go to it because I live in the lockdown. So like all my mates and everyone get to go to the gym that don't live near me.
Yeah.
And I'm just stuck at home.